Imagine introducing a species into a new environment, not because you want to destroy an ecosystem, not because you want to drive native animals toward extinction, but because you believe you're helping. Maybe you're solving a pest problem. Maybe you're improving fishing. Maybe you're simply bringing a familiar animal to a new place. Then, years later, entire ecosystems begin to collapse. Native species disappear, food chains unravel, and governments spend billions trying to fix a mistake that can never truly be undone. In part 1, we explored 6 invasive animals that transformed ecosystems around the world. But some of the most destructive invaders didn't make that list. And one of the animals in today's video becomes so abundant during population explosions that people describe the ground itself as moving. Let's begin.
Imagine cruising peacefully down a river. The water is calm. Everything seems normal. Then suddenly, a giant fish launches itself out of the water and slams into your chest. It sounds like something from a movie, but for many people across North America, it's a real danger. The animal responsible is the Asian carp. Several species of Asian carp were imported into the United States during the 1970s. They were intended to help control algae and improve water quality. The plan seemed harmless, but floods allowed many of these fish to escape into natural waterways. Once free, they spread rapidly through major river systems. Asian carp consume enormous quantities of plankton. The problem is that native fish rely on the same food source. As carp populations exploded, many native species struggled to compete. In some waterways, Asian carp now make up the majority of fish biomass. Their famous jumping behavior has also created safety hazards for boaters. Efforts to stop them from reaching the Great Lakes have cost hundreds of millions of dollars. Yet the invasion continues, and the next invader may be even worse.
Imagine introducing an animal to solve a pest problem. The target pest survives. The solution spreads instead. And almost everything that tries to eat it dies. That's exactly what happened with the cane toad. Introduced to Australia in 1935, these amphibians were supposed to control beetles damaging sugarcane crops. The idea seemed simple, but the beetles lived too high on the plants for the toads to reach. The pests remained. The toads, however, thrived. Unlike many native Australian animals, cane toads carry powerful toxins. Predators such as snakes, monitor lizards, and quolls often die after attempting to eat them. Their population expanded into the millions. Today, cane toads occupy enormous areas of Australia and continue threatening native wildlife. What began as a pest control experiment became one of the country's most infamous ecological disasters. Sometimes, an invasion starts with just a few animals, a very small number. Yet within decades, they can completely transform an ecosystem. In the late 1800s, a group of European starlings was released in New York City. The release was reportedly inspired by a desire to introduce every bird mentioned in Shakespeare's works to North America. Only about 100 birds were released. Today, there are more than 200 million starlings across the continent. They compete aggressively for nesting sites. Native birds often lose access to the cavities they need for breeding. Large flocks damage crops and create problems for farmers. Their success demonstrates how quickly a small introduction can grow into a continent-wide invasion. But the next animals are even worse. Because unlike birds or fish, they're predators. This next invader lives in millions of homes. People feed it, protect it, and love it. Yet when it lives in the wild, it becomes one of nature's most effective killers. The animal is the domestic cat. Feral cats exist on nearly every continent. Unlike native predators, they often hunt species that evolved without defenses against them. Birds, reptiles, small mammals, even endangered species. Researchers estimate that feral cats kill billions of animals every year worldwide. On islands, the impact can be catastrophic. Many extinctions have been linked directly to introduced cats.
Conservation programs spend enormous resources removing feral populations from sensitive habitats, but controlling them remains one of the biggest challenges in wildlife management. You might think a predator would be the most destructive animal on this list. The next invader doesn't hunt, doesn't bite, and barely moves. Yet it causes billions of dollars in damage. The zebra mussel arrived in North America through ballast water discharged from ships. At first glance, it seemed harmless. It's small, silent, and barely noticeable. But zebra mussels reproduce at astonishing rates. They attach themselves to almost any hard surface. Water pipes, boats, industrial equipment, power plants. Entire infrastructures can become clogged with dense colonies. They also alter aquatic ecosystems by filtering massive amounts of plankton from the water. This changes food availability for native species and disrupts natural ecological processes. Today, zebra mussels remain one of the most expensive invasive species in North America. And yet, they aren't number one, because the final invader reaches population levels that seem almost impossible to believe.
Imagine millions of animals suddenly appearing across the landscape. Fields moving with life, roads covered, buildings invaded, food supplies disappearing. This is not a scene from a movie. It's Australia during a mouse plague. The house mouse arrived with European settlers. For long periods, populations remain relatively low. Then conditions become perfect. Abundant food, favorable weather, and explosive breeding. During outbreaks, mouse numbers can reach extraordinary levels. Farmers report fields crawling with mice. Stored grain is destroyed. Infrastructure is damaged. Native species are affected. Economic losses reach hundreds of millions of dollars. Entire communities struggle to control the invasion. What makes these outbreaks especially frightening is their unpredictability. No one knows exactly when the next explosion will occur, only that eventually it probably will. From jumping fish and poisonous toads to invasive birds, feral predators, destructive mussels, and explosive mouse populations, these animals reveal a simple truth. The most dangerous invasive species don't always look dangerous. Many appear harmless. Some were introduced with good intentions. But once an invasive species becomes established, the consequences can last for generations. And sometimes, the damage can never truly be reversed. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe for more wildlife documentaries, animal facts, and incredible stories from the natural world. Because nature's strangest stories are often completely real.